Just a short walk from the George is the old Operating Theatre Museum and Herb Garrett. And here you can learn about and see how they performed medical surgery throughout the 1800s, before the introduction of anaesthetic. I'm fascinated by this room that we're in. What can you tell us about it?
Well, this is the old operating theatre of St Thomas's Hospital. It dates back to 1822, and it's one of the few surviving operating theatres pre-anaesthetic, and also before we kind of know any knowledge of germs. It is in fact the oldest operating theatre in Europe. You can see it's mostly made out of woods, not the most cleanest of materials. You'd have had these stands here packed with medical students who were learning about surgery by watching operations taking place. You could have up to about 125 students crammed into this theatre. So all these students would be in their street clothes. Some of them could have bad colds, bad coughs, or could be sneezing, coughing into this room, feeling the air full of germs as well. So the key thing about surgery before anaesthetic is speed. To get the operations over as quickly as possible to minimise the pain of the patients. But from the records we have from this period of this theatre, so it's about 40 years, the survival rate we kind of think is about 1 in 3 people would have survived an operation. This operating table, it's one of our kind of prize exhibits here. This is original 19th century table. There's not many of these around at all.
Tell me about this. This looks fascinating.
Well, this is an original kind of 19th century amputation kit. What we have here is the amputation knives. Of course, we have the bone saw here, much like your common saw you get today to saw through the bone.
You thought that was for wood, didn't you?
Oh, I was hopeful.
You'd have the tourniquet, which is, of course, used to stop blood loss. And we have this instrument here, which are your bone nippers. And this is just to nip away any bits of the splintered bone. And you'd also have your tweezers here. These would just be there to just pull out the arteries, the veins of the leg as tight as possible, knotted together, then all kind of bundled up, and then it's going to be stitched with a fine piece of horsehair. The operating day here is a Friday, so they are very much fewer than today. And we don't have electricity at this time, so natural light is kind of crucial.
Yeah.
You've got the gas lamps here, which are going to provide a kind of backup kind of light. We'd have the surgeon, of course, and going back to the hygiene issue, the surgeon is going to have to protect his own clothes. It's almost kind of like a pride thing for the surgeon. You know, he's got his students here, and he's kind of showing off how many operations he's done. They're very skilled surgeons. There is this kind of misconception, I think, that surgery is kind of akin to butchery at this time. But the surgeons, you know, they are very well qualified, very kind of knowledgeable about surgery. But of course, dealing with the limitations about no anaesthetic, and also, you know, they don't know anything about germs. So people are dying of infection, but they don't know the reasons.
Next to the old operating theatre is the Herb Garrett. The Garrett would have held all the ingredients necessary to make up all of the medicines required by the patients next door. And while not quite as bloody and gruesome, there are some equally interesting and disturbing methods used to aid the needy. The Herb Garrett was run by the Chief Apothecary of St Thomas's Hospital. He was the Chief Resident Medical Officer responsible not only for compounding medicines, but for the diagnosis and the treatment for all non-surgical patients. He would have been responsible for paying for all the drugs needed by the hospital out of his own fees. And this was the way the governors used to manage and limit the cost of healthcare. And while a good idea in principle, there were complaints the apothecary made savings on the drugs bill at the expense of the medicines he made. The apothecary was the term used to describe what we would now refer to as a chemist or pharmacist. And St Thomas's employed its first apothecary in 1566 and its last in 1871, when the role of senior medical officer was transferred to the assistant physician.